The occupational factors that a disability insurance carrier considers when you apply for disability benefits. What you don't know can bite you. Hey, I'm Nancy Cavey. I'm a National ERISA Disability and IDI attorney, and I want to welcome you to this week's episode of Winning Isn't Easy. Before we get started, I've got to give you a legal disclaimer. The Florida Bar Association says I have to say this, so I have. This podcast is not legal advice. Nothing, however, is going to ever prevent me from giving you an easy-to-understand overview of the disability insurance world, the games that carriers play, and what you need to know to get the disability benefits you deserve. So off we go. Making the decision to reduce your hours and apply for disability benefits or to stop work and apply for total disability benefits can be hard. I watched my father make that decision, and it was not an easy one for him to make. Now, you may think that once you decide that you're going to file your disability insurance claim, that a check is going to be overnighted to you, to your house. After all, your doctor has told you to reduce your work and apply for your residual disability benefits or to stop work totally. And even your employer supports your claim. But that's not how it works in the real world. How it works is that your initial application for your benefits is going to be reviewed by the disability carrier from three perspectives. Now, the first perspective is going to be, what are the terms of the policy or the plan? The second is going to be, what's the sufficiency of the medical proof that establishes that you're disabled as that term is defined by your policy or plan? And what's your occupation as that term is defined by your policy or plan? And how are you unable to do the material and substantial duties of that occupation? In this multi-part series, I'm going to concentrate on the occupational evaluation, so you know the factors that the disability carrier plan is likely to consider. And this is much more complex than you might think it would be based on a simple reading of your disability policy or plan. Today, I'm going to talk about three things. First, your specific occupational duties and what you have to know about the most important feature of your disability insurance policy or plan. Two, what were the specific physical and or mental requirements associated with each duty? And thirdly, how long do you have to perform each duty in the course of an average day or week? Got it? All right, let's take a break before we jump into these topics. Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy. How long do you perform each material and substantial duty in the course of an average day? Now, that's a strange question, but I think it's a very relevant question. And I think it's just part of completing a winning disability insurance claim application description of your occupational duties. And it's got to be done correctly, because you have the burden to prove that you're disabled under the terms of the policy. Now, as we've talked about in earlier episodes, disability can be defined in a lot of different ways. The policy might define disability as the inability to perform the material and substantial duties of your occupation, the inability to perform one or more of the material and substantial duties of your occupation, or the inability to perform the main duties of your occupation. How does your disability policy or plan define the term disability? You got to know this so you know what you've got to prove, and you can back into this proof. It's details, details, and more details. Your occupational description is going to potentially make or break your claim. And if you're not a medical provider, dentist, or attorney, the carrier or plan is going to want to know how long you did each duty on an average day or over an average week. The disability carrier is trying to figure out with this question what it is you do, how long you do it, and whether or not that duty is material. The materiality of your duties is going to be used to measure whether or not you're disabled. So I just threw out that term, material and substantial duties. What does that term mean in the context of your disability policy or plan? Get it out and read it. You've got a starting point for figuring out what a material duty is and what a substantial duty is. Not the same thing. I want you to think about the term material as as the meaningful duties that have to be done as part of the occupation. In other words, if those duties were omitted, then the occupation just couldn't be performed. Substantial, on the other hand, means that the duties are important to completing the task, and that's a question of whether or not they are qualitative or quantitative. In other words, is it the quality of the duties? Is it the quantitative, or the amount of times you have to do this particular task that makes it a substantial duty? Now, I will tell you, unfortunately, that disability carriers kind of gloss over their own policy or plan definitions of material and substantial. They often equate time on task with materiality and substantial duties, which is not necessarily the case. And that's why we want to spend time in looking at that occupational description of your occupation to understand material and substantial duties, and we want to understand the definition of disability. Because ultimately, when we're preparing an occupational description, as I've talked about before, we want to be preparing an Excel spreadsheet. And part of this analysis should be the amount of time that you are spending on these particular duties, and some sort of description as to why these duties are material. And if you couldn't do these duties, why those duties would prevent you from performing that occupation, or the occupation couldn't be performed at all. Now, if you are a professional, disability carriers determine the material and substantial duties of professionals completely different. What they want in that case, if you're a doctor or a lawyer, an accountant, they want your billing records. They want records of what you've done, records of your procedures, and they want that generally on a daily or a weekly basis, because they're going to take this documentation as an objective measure of what you're doing, how much time you spend doing the task, and how much you make from each activity. And then they're going to back into what's material and what's substantial. So if you're a surgeon, for example, the disability carrier is going to want your billing records to determine what types of procedures you do, how many you do them, how often you do them, your income from each procedure, and what you may do at the office. And they're going to analyze this. They're going to want that information after you become disabled and you're filing a residual disability claim. And they're going to want that on a monthly basis to figure out, if you're disabled, are you doing the material and substantial duties of your occupation? And they'll be using that to analyze whether or not they owe you residual disability benefits. You can expect this, and I know it is a pain in the rear end. I deal with this every day with doctors, office managers, their accountants. It is a pain, but there is no way around it, because that's how disability carriers analyze this. And as a person who has a disability policy, you have a duty to cooperate and to provide them with this information. And if you don't, they can say, too bad, so sad, you may be disabled, but you haven't provided us with the information to analyze your claim or your loss, so we're not going to pay your benefits. Got it? So you also need to understand that the physical or mental requirements of your job duties are going to be objectively verified, regardless of your occupation, by the carrier, by phone or in writing. And I'm going to discuss that in my next podcast or my next video here. And it's called How a Disability Carrier Will Verify Your Occupational Duties. The attempt to verify this is not a friendly inquiry as to how you're doing, are you disabled, that sort of thing. So you need to understand that this contact can get confrontational pretty quickly and can result in a claims denial. Got it? All right. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of Winning Isn't Easy. If you've enjoyed this episode, consider liking our page, leaving a review, or sharing it with your friends and family. Consider subscribing to this podcast. That way, you're going to be notified every time a new episode comes out. Please tune in to next week's episode of Winning Isn't Easy. Look forward to talking with you then.